So you get in the clubhouse with a 72. So you open with 71, 67, 72. And now I think you're like 3 shots back of Goose, I think, going to the last round. And it doesn't almost matter that you shot super high on Sunday, but we're going to go through it anyway, because he did too. Gooston did too. He shot about the same as you did on Sunday. But now put us into the position, put us back onto the tee now for Sunday. Where are we mentally now? We had the crowd, but that settles down overnight, as you know, and you've got to actually sleep and you've got to rest and you've got to get yourself back up, ready to go on Sunday. And it's a long stretch. Everything's tough about the U.S. Open. Maybe not for Tiger. Maybe not. It certainly was tough for me. I shot 79 on that Saturday. I shot 74, 69, 79, shot 70 on Sunday. But tell us about Sunday, because the nightmare happened on Sunday that we that's why we're talking about it. And then I want to ask you, what would you have done different? But let's put everybody on the tee on Sunday.
So Lewis and I always had a routine where we'd go wedge early, right? So we'd go take 3 clubs out to the range, kind of dial in my wedges a little bit, go in, have lunch. And this was for any afternoon tee time. Go in, have lunch, take a little break, and then come back out and warm up, right? That was just kind of like our routine to try to like eat up the morning, right? If you had a 1 or 2 o'clock tee time, we would meet at 10, do our thing. So we did that. And of course, NBC or, whoever was doing pre-coverage are like, oh my gosh, he must be nervous. Like he's out here 5 hours early. I'm like, no, that's what I did. Right. Like, so kind of did that, but it was different. Now you had people watching you on the range. Now you had people, asking for autographs on the way back to the thing. So it kind of got me
eats
out
up a lot of energy. It chews up a lot of energy too.
But that was what I did. So I got to the tee and
are you playing with Goosen?
I'm playing with Goosen. So I birdied the final hole on Saturday to get into the final group. Yeah. And I birdied 18. And Ron Reed, who was the starter for the US Open, wrote in a book about the 2005 US Open, and he signed it on the inside, and it says, to the recipient of the loudest ovation I've ever heard on the first tee at the US Open. And he goes, and it was when they announced my name, I remember looking up, and they have these grandstands down the left, and everybody stood up and started screaming. And it was kind of startling, right? Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what's going on here? And
you were the new hometown favorite.
I was the Prince of Pinehurst. So somehow, I don't know how that came about, but that's what I was. That's the name I was given. And I walk up and I freaking smash it down the first tip fairway, all the way down there. I think I had like flip pitching wedge. I think I had 120 something in there to that hole, and it was like 4.7. It was a monster of a hole. And I think I outdrove Goose and by like 30 or 40 yards, and but he kind of necked one. I'm not going to say it, but he was down on the right side of the fairway. And as I'm walking off the tee, everybody was screaming my name. I actually kind of felt bad. Here's for Retief, like here's the defending US Open champion. He's got a 3-shot lead, and it felt like nobody gave one flying what about him. And I actually kind of felt bad. Like I had to like calm the crowd down after I smashed it down the middle, because I was first up, to like be respectful and have him hit his tee shot. And but yeah, I hit a great shot into 1. I hit a bad drive on 2. I hit it right and got up and down from nowhere to make bogey. And then on 3, I it's just an iron off the tee, and I had this little pitching wedge. And I don't know if the wind died. The pin was back left, and this green's it's typical Pinehurst. It's all up in place. And I hit it on the perfect line and flew it about 3 or 4 yards too far and made 6. And hadn't hit a bad shot, right? So like that's what Pinehurst does. And then I think the one thing I got out of both Lewis and I'll take most of the blame because I think I'm president of on-course operations, Caddy's vice president of on-course operations, was that we tried to go win the US Open.
Right? You were trying to win it on hole 3? Is that what
I was trying to win it after hole 3. Like, I changed my lines to a little bit tighter, a little bit more aggressive, and you just can't do that at that place, right? Like you
Going back to 30 minutes ago when you were talking about on hole 8 where Lewis told you to hit it 30 or 40 feet to the right. That year, my dad was there, and on Saturday he came up to me and he came over to me on one of the holes. It's relevant to this story. He said, "Are you going to bogey every hole today out here? Because I can do this." He was joking, and I said, "Dad," I told him later, we were having a beer later, and I said, when you're in contention at the U.S. Open, it's easy to hit it 40 feet to the right or left of the pin because you're looking to make 4 or a par. But when you're over par and you're trying to press, you're going right in there, and you're likely going to bogey every hole, particularly at Pinehurst, because you're just not hitting it that good, and you're just not going to be that precise. But anyway, that same thing happened to me, but mine wasn't as hurtful as your story is. But carry on. You changed your lines, you went tighter, and that was a big mistake, right?
Yeah, like you go out and you try to make birdies, and at that place, like you don't do that, right? And like to win the U.S. Open, whoever was going to win that day was going to run out of holes, right? They weren't going to like do something dramatic and come back and seize the lead and take it, but you were just trying to make pars, and you were going to try to make a couple putts, and you're going to try to make like, if you had a perfect yardage with a perfect angle with a perfect, everything, then you could try to go ahead and do something that, try to make a move. But I tried to do that from bad angles with half shots, but basically you just can't do that there. You have to continue to play your game plan. And I did things that were unnecessary, right? And like the golf course I thought was set up beautifully that day, and it tempted you to do something stupid, and it looked inviting, and you shouldn't do it, but I couldn't help myself because I was trying to make up for previous mistakes, and you just can't do that there. Like I birdied 5, which I'm like, all right, perfect. And I drove in the right rough, just barely in the right rough, and sometimes that's the worst lies you can get. And I hit this 9-iron from like 30 yards longer than I normally hit a 9-iron, whatever that was, right? It landed short and rolled up to like 8 to 10 feet and made it. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, let's do this. Like, and then hit the bunker the next hole, and just compound of errors that I knew I didn't need to do, right? I was probably still in second or third place at that point, and fourth place. Like I just started doing stuff that I knew I shouldn't, and I couldn't help myself. And we were trying to go win because, this was an opportunity of a
You were
lifetime.
so high, the crowd was so high on you, and you wanted to keep it going. And you almost already answered your question, because after all the dust settled, Michael Campbell won by 2 strokes over Tiger Woods. Goosen shot 81, I think, that day. You shot 84, and you staggered out of Pinehurst, kind of almost the way you came in, which was like, man, what happened, right? You came through the gates coming to Pinehurst, not knowing what was going on. You left, and you had all this, Mount Everest of emotions in between, and looking back on it, and you left that tournament, and I knew that was not to avail. You would go on that year, and you won twice on Nationwide that year. You won the Cox Classic up in Omaha, and you won the Pete Dye Classic down in West Virginia 2 times. And then boom, like that, you were back on the PGA Tour, and that's when you and I became friends, and that's all water under the bridge. But I thought it was important. I thought it was fun to think about it now. Here we are all these years later, because it's going to happen to another player.